Debbie with Kip's Corner. Welcome back. And if you're new, welcome. Today I'm going to make a tag, a mixed media tag, as a part of Angie from Mountain Girl Studios challenge. So Angie is a mixed media artist who also makes journals, of course. Her journals are gorgeous. And she has recently begun creating digital background images based on her mixed media work. So I've got one piece here. Let me just show you some of the ones I've picked up from her. She has a website and she also has an Etsy shop. And my printer goofed up on me, but here's some. I obviously was playing and let's see, is that the same one? That's the same one, two different printers. So you can see what happens with the color there. This is printed with my inkjet printer, and this one is printed with the laser printer. I think the rest of these are inkjet. So I've just picked up a few here and there. She has them single pages. Look at the colors in that one, isn't that pretty? And I will use these, this is the same thing. This is the one I'm going to use today. And I'm going to make a tag. Look at that, pretty. Basically, I've gotten some of her green. There's a duplicate, some duplicates. Oh, and the blue one. My printer did not like this blue one, but the color is so vivid and gorgeous. So anyway, those are just a few that I've picked up here and there along the way. I've grabbed mostly, other than the blue one, mostly the backgrounds that have greens and purples in them, and have been playing. And the reason I've been playing with greens and purples is because I have two journals that I'm working on, one that I haven't really begun yet, that is going to be a woodland journal. And so I made this tag for that journal. And what I did here is I took her background paper and first I embossed it. I embossed it with an embossing folder that is cracked, I think it's cracked glass. And so I don't know if you can kind of see. And then I went over the embossing area very lightly with some rust waxed paste. So it brought out some of these cracky lines back here in the back. And then I used Seth Apter's Wow embossing brush. And this is embossing liquid in a tube or a jar with a brush on it. And if I can get this open, I will show you the brush. And so what I did on this one is I just took the brush and got a lot of liquid on it and dripped. I held the tag upright and just started at the top and just kind of tapped that brush on the top and just let the embossing liquid just drip down. And then I used the Vintage Beeswax. It's a baked texture embossing powder from Seth Apter also, and embossed where I had dripped. And then as I was heating it to melt the embossing powder, I also held this up and it dripped even some more. And so that's what created the drips, if you can see that, with the Vintage Beeswax drips up here at the top. And then after that, I just added a little bit more wax. I've got some patina wax on here, a little bit more wax on the edge, inked the edges. I added a rusty washer and some sari silk with some fibers up at the top. And then those same fibers down here just dropped on top of a little book page and some cheesecloth and then a little mushroom image. So that tag is done. And I'm really pleased with the way it turned out. So I made this actually a couple weeks ago and I haven't had a chance to record since then. And so what I want to do is make another one, this time with, for my Purple Botanical Journal, which is actually going to be a giveaway journal. I like to make at least one mixed media tag per journal. I just think it's a fun ad. And I will typically put those in the sort of the inside front cover pocket. And so a little dimension, like this one has the metal butterfly on it. a little dimension, just fun. I just like doing that. And so this tag is going to be for this journal. And I will probably slip her right inside this front pocket, which I think it will fit perfectly, right like that. This is the Purple Botanical giveaway journal that I will be giving away as soon as I hit 2,000 subscribers, and I'm, I don't know how many away. Less than 100, right at 100, I think. So soon I'll be hitting that mark. So I want to get her ready to go. This is a piece of chipboard. It's a chipboard tag. It's a tag that came in one of those kits where you can use these rings and create like a book, you know, where this would fold over. But I'm not going to use the kit that way. I'm going to use these tags individually. But I've got some holes down here. And so what I want to do is fill those up just a tiny bit first, just so that it's not, the tag isn't vulnerable to getting a hole poked in it right down there where those holes are. So because I'm going to cover everything up. So I'm going to use some matte gel here that has been around the block a while. There we go. And I'm just going to dab that hole. Here, let me get this set aside here. I'm going to dab that hole and just try to fill it up a little bit with some, I don't know if this will work or not, but like that and like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and put matte medium on the whole piece here. Get an extra glob in there. And then I'll just glue this paper on to the top of this. And then when I add the back piece, I'll do the same thing. Just to give it a little extra, little extra stability there. It'll take a little while longer for it to dry just because it's just a thick glob right there, but I'm okay with that. I think that's probably good. And I'm not worried about the back or what I get on the back because I will be covering that as well. So I think that's about where I want that. Maybe a little higher. I want to be able to trim off the excess because I can never get them on there just perfectly straight. So let's come up here a little bit. I'm just going to dab that down. I'm going to make a mess when I flip this over. Watch me. I already have. The beauty of these papers, you know, digital kits or digital papers are really just like scrapbook paper, except that you can use them over and over again once you purchase them. There's no limit usually. I mean, you need to read the terms of use from the designer, but there's typically no use to how you can use them. If you are using them in a journal that you'll be selling, which is my case, you do want to make sure that the designer's terms do allow for that. But beyond that, you know, they're very, very useful to have. Let me just wipe up my mess a little bit here. And you can see I've got a little bit extra in there, and then when I put the back piece on, I'll fill those a little more as well. So once that dries, that'll be nice and hard. Okay, I think that's good. And also the nice thing about these types of background sheets that I love is that you can pick out, you know, when you're doing something like this, you can pick out what part of the paper you want to use. In my case, I wanted to get a little more of the purple in here, whereas, you know, like if I'd have used this spot, there would have been more blue on it, if that makes sense. So let's close this because I am going to use that again for this. I'm not going to drip on this one. I'll leave that there so it covers up I think that'll help cover up that glare. I'm not going to drip on this one like I did on this one. I'm going to do something a little different, but I am going to use the this embossing liquid again for this. So, all right, let's get this trimmed out. I'm back. Okay, so I went through and trimmed up this edge a little bit. And now what I'm going to do is just to stress the edge of this a little. It's just a fun little, you know, an added thing, and tears up the edge of the paper a little. And I've got a really old, I don't think they even make these anymore. It's from Prima Marketing, and it's just a paper distressing tool. So any kind of, a nail file or sandpaper, you know, anything along those lines would work. This just happens to be sitting here at my desk, and so that's what I'm going to use. And I'm just going to rough it up a little here along the edges. Because it's out, I'm going to go ahead and just use matte medium. You could use pretty much any glue at this stage to glue that flower down. I've already inked the edges. After I die cut it, I inked the edges. So I had done that previously. And I'm just going to douse the back of this with matte medium. Again, any glue would work really for this stage. I like, my matte medium was already out, and so I might as well use it. Okay. I'm going to take this is by Seth Apter, and it is called Mixed Media Embossing Brush. And so it's an embossing liquid. Hope you can see that. And I'm just going to get as much of that liquid off of the brush here as I can. And then I'm just going to set that aside. Let me set it over my paper so it doesn't drip. And I'm going to use a fine tipped brush. I'm going to dip it in here. And now I'm just going to brush on, and I'm not using much at all. I'm just dabbing and painting and going over the lines that are existing here on the illustration. And I'm not worried, you know, I'm not trying to stay in the lines. I'm not worried if I go off of that area, but I'm hitting up these darker parts of the flower. Okay. All right. I think that will work. I'm going to put my brush back in. Now I'm going to use, this is Seth Apter's, again, it's Baked Texture, and it is vintage beeswax. And now Seth's, all of his embossing powders come in these pouches. And I didn't tear it off very well, but instead of jars, it's just more economically eco-friendly. There we go. So I'm just going to sprinkle that on there. All right. So the idea is that this flower has a little bit of, let's see if you can see that. There you go. It has a little bit of sheen to it. And I think now that I look at this, I think I'm going to add a little bit up on this flower as well. So let's do that again. All right. I think I've got it. And so now, let's see if you can see that. You can see there's just a little sheen. And it's not on the whole flower, just some highlights. And it darkens that color behind it just a little bit on that particular one. It just gives it a nice little effect. Okay, next up, I think I want to put some, it's clear rock candy. This is from Ranger. It's part of the Tim Holtz stuff. Distress Crackle Paint Clear Rock Candy, which I love. And I'm just gonna blob it on. Kind of like that. And I think I want to do a little bit up here at the top as well. Let's go over here. And now I've got a hole that'll go there, but I will deal with that later. Oops, and I don't want it on my flower. That's okay. I think it's just the tiny bit that it's there. And let's go, while we're doing, let's just go ahead and go a little bit here. And then once it's started drying and the crackling has started, you can speed up the process. But I want that to get going first a little bit and dry up, and then I can add the heat to it after that. Okay, my crackle medium has dried, and you can see, I think, just a very subtle little texture there on the two bottom corners and a little bit going across the top. So now, let's see, I think I want to play with some wax. But I do have this rose gold. So let's see. I don't know if I'm going to like this or not. Let's see what the rose gold looks like. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit, and I'm just, I'm just flying by here, not really knowing what I'm doing. I'm going to put a little, perhaps, on this edge where my texture is. I don't know if I like that or not. Let me, let's see. Let me see. Let's get some ink on there first. Let me get some, this is Vintage Photo. And my sponge is in its last life. It's about time for me to switch sponges. And let me just get some Vintage Photo on the edges here. And that might be, yeah, my sponge is totally falling apart. And you can see how where the paper was pulled away when I sanded, when I sanded it. And so that just pulls that ink further in, a little further into the page, if that makes sense. I think what I'm going to do now is go over the outer edge with a darker, this is a ground espresso. So I'm going to go back over this edge with a darker color. And I may even come back in with black at some point. And now in hindsight, oops, I should have waited to put the crackle medium on here, and I should have inked the edges first. But that's okay, because it's not taking, of course it's not taking the ink where the crackle medium is. But wax will, and so I'm definitely going to add some wax on top of that. Okay, that's good. That's good. I like that so far. All right, I don't want to use the rose gold. I've just decided I don't like that. But I do want to put a little bit of patina on the edge, and I think I'll put, if I can find it in my, yeah, I think I'll put some black wax on the edge too. So let's start with some patina. And this patina, it's really dry, but it works. I'm just going to use my finger, and I'm just going to take a look at this where that ink didn't fall on there very well, and perhaps get some patina on that edge there. So covering up my mistake, that's what it's all about. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull this patina in a little here where that texture paste is and where I put the rose gold on that I just don't like. So I'm just going to get that a little thicker through here. There we go. And the texture from the texture medium is coming through. So it's not smooth down there, which is nice. Let's get a little up here as well. I'm going to do the exact same thing and just come in here where that was. And remember, I'm going to have a hole in here, so there'll be a little something. Whoops, it got a little thick there. Going on there. So now we're beginning to get this patina edge. And let's do a little down here as well. There we go. I think I like that. I like what's going on there. I kind of want, I think I want to get a little more right through here, right through there. And hopefully that'll blend in then a little bit with the background. Let's go. Where else? Where else do I want more? Actually, I think that's probably good. I think I'll stop there with that. And I'm going to put some black around the very edge. So let me get this patina off my fingers. And I'm going to go around the very edge with some black. And I think that'll help set it off a little bit. So this is just, you know, I didn't really have a major game plan going into this, which is fine. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I get a sort of an image of what I want it to look like in my head, and I dive in that way. And sometimes I just have a general idea of where I'm going to go or what I'm going to do. And then I am flexible, stay flexible enough to change my mind along the way. So I'm just gonna go over this edge with black. I don't know if it'll show up very much. I'm just running my finger around the edge of that chipboard. And I'm hoping the idea here is, yeah, see that I get a little bit, you know, a little bit around the front and a lot on the edge, and then it just finishes that off. Sort of like framing it almost. You could also do the same technique with paint. I think that would work. Or a charcoal pencil would probably work. Just whatever you've got in your supply. Okay. But I really like using wax. I just like the effect of it and the look of it. And I want to get a little bit more over here. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. Let's get a little black right. But I want to include, I like some dimensions. So I like either adding a piece of chipboard, or like in the case of this one, a little metal piece of some sort, or perhaps even a cluster of pieces. I also, it's not unusual for me to add lace or pieces of vintage doily or string, cheesecloth, any of that kind of thing. I don't think cheesecloth or a vintage doily or lace, well, maybe some lace would work on here, but I don't want to go there. I don't know if I'm going to like this or not, but I like testing out different things and playing around. And I don't know, is it over here? And maybe the bee is sitting on top of it, sort of. It's very subtle. The bee almost blends in too much. But I really do like the idea. I kind of like the idea of that as in just a subtle little extra going on. I think I'm going to do it now. Okay, so here's where decisions, right? Do you put it on top? Do you put it on this corner over here that is a little blander? But I really like the idea of the metal piece interacting or being tied to or connected to the flower. I like that creates a scenario where the flower is coming out of that metal piece a little. Let's just make sure there's just one here. Oh, is that the back? No. Yeah. No, that was right. I like that. I like that motion that creates. But I do not want, let me show you why. I do not want corners, a metal piece on both corners, because I think that would be overkill. That would be too much. So I like the imbalance that the one corner creates. I always refer to, I strive to do symmetrically asymmetrical. And what I mean by that is I like things to be balanced. And this is balanced in that the metal piece is down here at the bottom in this corner, and the bigger flower is up on this side, or this corner, if you will, even though it's a tag, doesn't have another corner, but you know what I mean. And so that balances it for me, both top to bottom and left to right. This is a heavier element, but there's more going on up here with both flowers. And I like the way that the movement that creates with your eye. But when I add a second corner, to me, that's just overkill. It's nice in that it frames the bottom of the frame, but it's too much. It's way more than this needs, and this piece could be better utilized later on another piece somewhere. So overkill, I try to err on the side of simple without getting too much going on. And I also like the pieces to be connected or tied to each other some way. And I don't know if that makes any sense at all to anyone listening. And if it doesn't, I apologize. It's hard for me to explain. But if it does, cool. Then you understand what I'm saying. So now I just have to decide, do I want to add this other element? And the bee is adorable, but he almost blends in too much. Under normal circumstances, I'd add him on down here. He almost blends in too much. So I think I'm going to set Mr. B aside. Okay. Next up, I want to add a little bit of stamping in the background, just a tiny bit. And so I've got, this works best if you're using, if you have a cling stamp of some sort and you don't use an acrylic base, because what this will allow me to do is to just kind of push my thumb into certain areas without really stamping a whole great big piece. And I just want to get just a little tiny bit in the background. And I don't really want a whole lot. Let's see if I can do this. On the actual flower, got a little bit there. That's okay. Let's just do it. So basically boom. Now that went all the way on the flower. It was exactly what I didn't want to do. But I want to get right in there. Right there. There we go. And let me get some more up here. And some more down here. And I like that just adds just one more little bit to it. I may have ruined it actually, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm all right with that. Let's do one more stamp here, going up the side. Oops, that didn't work. Let's do one more stamp here, going up the side, and we're gonna call that. Okay, I had a little recording snafu and I haven't checked yet, but I thought I was recording and I don't think I was. So I may have missed some of the steps in here, and I apologize if that happened. You'll find out as I walk through what I've done. So this is done. Yay. So on the base, we have the digital paper printout from Angie at the Mountain Girl Studio. And this is a challenge from Angie. So I've used her papers on both of these. And yeah, they're fun. I love them. So we've got that. Then we've got a die cut, or a fussy cut, I should say, flower from a book. On top of that, there is some Seth Apter's Vintage Beeswax embossing powder on top of the flowers. Then there's also some Distress Crackle paint in clear rock candy here on the edge, down here on the bottom edge as well. A metal corner here with some wax in both patina, a little bit on the metal on the patina, some patina on the edges, you can see some there, and then black wax as well around the outer edge and creeping into the piece a little bit. Then on top of that, I added just some stamping, some random handwriting stamps, just script, I should say, just periodically throughout the piece. And then I added, well, before that, actually, I added the rusty washer up here at the top, sari silk, and a little piece of hemp to tie the sari silk on. You can also knot it, of course, which I do more often than not. I did back it as well with some, just a scrap of tea-dyed paper, or coffee-dyed, no, this is tea-dyed. And then I finished off the very, very end, the piece, with some splatters, and this is what I'm not sure that was recording. Actually, it's possible that none of this recorded, but some splatters of white gesso mixed with some water, so it's very runny. You get it on the edge of your paintbrush and you just tap your brush over your piece and you just have a few little splatters on it. So that our finished piece looks like this. The one I made totally off camera, using some very similar supplies. This one has an embossing folder texture on the background on the digital paper before it was laid down on the tag. But it also is using the vintage beeswax embossing powder, but in this case, the embossing agent was dripped onto the piece from the top down, holding the piece at an angle. It also has a washi closure here up at the top, sari silk and fibers. There's also a metal piece on here. And then down here, there's also actually wax and patina and ink around all of the edges, as well as a little bit of wax right on top of that texture. Book page, cheesecloth, some fibers, and a mushroom printout. And so you have some very similar techniques used here, or similar products, I should say, in different ways, different techniques, and the results are, of course, also very different. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I do hope that enough of it recorded that you get the idea of what I was doing here and what I was creating and playing. And I had no idea when I started what this was going to look like. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I have a really good idea of what I want to do, and sometimes I have no idea of what I want to do. So I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I will be back. So until next time, bye.